Inside Outside. November 16, 2014. Do you remember when outside us was real and inside was, well, we did not know what it was. Yes, we did know. Outside us was real. No one talked about inside us as being real. Inside us were organs, bones, cells, and blood, but they were not sentient. We were our body. Inside our body was what kept our body alive. Our aura was outside of us, and everything, religious, spiritual, or multidimensional, a term we had not heard of, was outside of us. We believed that we were our body and all the spiritual religious elements of our lives were outside of us, and, usually, far above us. We were only our body. We had been taught that our inside was not important. Besides, our outside real self was so busy trying to survive that we had little time to search for an inner essence. If we were very good, then we might be able to pray to heaven far above us to ask for help. Then, when we died, we could go outside of our bodies and travel far up to heaven where God lived far, far above us. Our spiritual guidance was not in us. In fact, it would be shocking and conceited to even consider such a notion. We were just humans. For many incarnations it was punishable by death to say that we were connected to a higher being. Thus, in order to survive and to protect our family, we told our children that their inner power was just their imagination. The real world was outside. The real power was outside of us. The real world was outside of us. For untold incarnations, these lives of living on the outside repeated themselves. Sometimes we were the heroes and sometimes we were the villains. Then, during a very special lifetime, we had an opportunity to actually perceive our own inner self inside of our earth vessel. We found that this inner perspective was wise beyond our years and would only speak the truth. Now truth was a problem because we had been raised on lies and illusions. We would have to let go of everything we had ever been taught was real, and look inside to perceive our outside reality from the control tower of our inner self. Of course, this perspective did not make us feel special. In fact, most of the time it made us feel crazy. However, if we went back to our old way of perceiving, then we really started feeling crazy. Something was happening to us. We did not know what that something was, but it was scaring, exhilarating, beyond words, euphoric, and made us disassociate more and more the 3D rules that had always controlled our consciousness. When we were just our outside self, we believed these 3D rules, but now this new, inner self made us feel and act different. Our different feelings created new actions, as well as an ever-expanding consciousness. We discovered that as our consciousness expanded, the need to survive was augmented by the need to know. This urge to know made us look beyond the confines of our local reality. As our world got smaller, we became exposed to other cultures that told us to go inside. So, we secretly looked inside. It took more courage than we thought, but as we went deeper and deeper inside ourselves, we discovered a certain feeling that we could not find on the outside. We then began to differentiate between the inside of us and the outside. This differentiation was a big step on the path to higher consciousness. This inner path led us to discover a living essence inside of us that was not found outside. Then, after many years of meditation and going inside, we began to discover a self that knew everything that we had ever experienced, learned, suffered and loved. In fact, this inner self had a totally different perspective on life. Rather than focusing on survival and what the outside world told us to think, do, feel and have, we began to recognize our own inside thoughts, feelings, and desires. This focus placed us in the driver's seat of our own lives. Then we really began to change. When the day outside of us were the bosses of our life, we had to work so hard that our reality became very small. We had to get enough money to survive, or to get rich so that they, meaning those on the outside of us, would like us more, be impressed, or whatever. As we kept going inside and talking to our inner self, the urge to get money because of them began to diminish. Slowly our old urge to get more money was replaced with the urge to get more wisdom. It was then that we began to look outside, not with the intention of wanting, but with the intention of giving. What we discovered was very shocking. The sky was polluted, the food was poison, the water was tainted, and the healthy wheat, corn, and vegetables were genetically altered. Wars were almost continuous. Famine was common. Storms were bigger than ever, and species after species of plants and animals were endangered or gone forever. What happened, we asked ourselves. Where was I when all this was happening to my world? How could my world fall apart like this? What did I do wrong? Did you mean to ask, how can I help? We hear our inner self ask. I am just one person. How could I help? We ask, trying not to hear the anger in our voice. But there was no answer to our anger and fear because these emotions lowered our connection to our inner self. Then, we fell back into the belief that we were just human. The fear and anger began to completely overtake the higher consciousness that we had fleetingly visited. Far too quickly we forgot all that we had remembered while we enjoyed the connection to our inner self. We had slipped into the dark night of the soul, but we didn't know that because we had stopped reading and listening to all that wonderful information we had eagerly embraced while in our state of higher consciousness. Then one day a small boy rode past us learning how to ride a two-wheeler. He fell off the bike again and again and again. He hurt himself, cried, and then got back on the bike. Every time he fell off, he learned something that he didn't even know he was learning until he fell off the bike. Why can't I learn how to stay on that stupid bike? The boy asked. Because then you would not learn to remember how to keep your balance, the small boy heard an inner voice say. No one had told him about inner voices, so he thought it was normal. I don't want to learn about my balance, yelled the small boy because he had failed again to stay on his bike. He stomped the ground, kicked the stupid bike, and ran off, embarrassed because he had failed again. What is wrong with me? Why can't I keep my balance like that inner guy said, the boy mumbled. I am happy that you believe in me enough to hear my words, said the boy's inner self. Do you want us to tell you about keeping your balance? The little boy thought that it was really weird that this inner voice was talking to him, but he really did want to know about balance, so he said, okay. Balance is about the ability to listen to your inner self while you also pay attention to your outer world. You did not hear me, your inner self, say, you can do anything you want. You only heard your outer self saying, why can't I ride this stupid bike? How do you know what I was thinking inside? The boy asked with an angry tone. Because I am you on the inside. Because I am inside you, I can see both your inner and your outer world. I am the inner you that can only say the truth and remembers everyone you ever were and everything you ever did. Also, I am connected to all the versions of your higher dimensional versions of self that are all inside of you. When you can remember how to balance me, your inner self, with the you, your outer self, you will be connected to your entire multidimensional world. What is a multidimensional world? Asked the small boy. Join me, and I will show you, the inner self whispered into the small boy's heart. Channeled by Suzanne Lee. SuzanneLeePhD.blogspot.com